Good morning. Welcome to this morning's weather briefing. You're going to hear some, unfortunately, familiar themes, but they're also, we're going to actually mention the word rain and precipitation, which most will be very, very thankful and grateful for. But to start off with here, looking at the obvious, with the dryness of over most of the state here over the last week, conditions have deteriorated further. This is a short-term drought index for the lower 48 states here, and you can see again Michigan is part of a much larger area of abnormally dry conditions stretching from the Mid-Atlantic and New England all the way westward into the Corn Belt. We're sort of on the northern fringe of that, but again, given no rain in many areas now, approaching 3 weeks without any precipitation at all, which is very unusual for Michigan. Topsoils have dried out and desiccated rapidly, and conditions again getting worse almost by the day. For the previous week here, not surprisingly, much warmer than normal with the heat of last week. Mean temperatures for the week on the left-hand side here, departures ranging from about 8 degrees in the southeastern lower part of the state to more than actually almost 15 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in portions of upper Michigan and even 12 degrees above normal in western lower. So much warmer than normal here for the week. Precipitation wise, there were some lucky folks on the western side of the state that did pick up some scattered showers last Friday and Saturday. You can see that here on the right with the precipitation totals, but judging by the sort of the texture of the scheme here, you can see most areas, most areas were dry in the state, and it was widely scattered. Most of the people who did get precipitation, it was less than 1/4 of an inch, but certainly welcome given the circumstances. But for most of the state, again, the take home, another dry week, and again, most areas now are approaching 3 weeks, which rarely happens in Michigan. Some places here, if we do not see precipitation this weekend, and I almost don't want to mention it, but we will be approaching all-time records for consecutive dry days. And in Michigan, climatologically, that's somewhere typically on the order of maybe 25 to 35 days. That's the longest it's been any season over time here without any precipitation. And we do have some locations in the state now that are at least nearing all-time records. And that's something we don't want to see, but it shows you how unusual the last several weeks have been. Well, let's move to the forecast here real quickly. Today, more high pressure across the area. You can see here on the map a big blue H out over western upper Michigan here. Canadian origin high pressure, cool and very dry area. And we've seen that here over and over again. The only exception here today, almost a carbon copy of yesterday, but we will see more in the way of haze due to wildfires mostly in Quebec, but the Maritimes, also eastern Canada, that are moving down on northeasterly winds, and something we don't see very often again in Michigan, but have certainly over the last couple of weeks. That will be the case both today and tomorrow, with relative humidities during the afternoon hours down into the 20s and 30s, very dry air. We will also see, unfortunately, continued risk of wildfires and forest fires due to the very dry conditions. That will also be the case tomorrow. The weather map here for tomorrow morning, here Friday at 8 o'clock, not much difference. High pressure still entrenched over the region. So tomorrow, almost the same as today, maybe a couple of degrees warmer during the day. So highs today on Thursday from the low and mid 70s generally, up to the mid, and then maybe a couple upper 70s here by tomorrow, by Friday, and then even a couple of degrees warmer than that on Saturday. That'll be probably the warmest time we'll be looking at during the next week. But here's the big news as we look ahead here. These are forecast conditions for Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. And actually, I've got a bunch of weather maps up here. We're so excited to see this. There's actually some green on the map to indicate precipitation. But the big news is in the upper left-hand corner here, we've had either a big blocking ridge located over the region or a trough. Both of those collectively have prevented the influx of moisture into the area from low levels. We typically get a lot of our moisture, of course, from the Gulf of Mexico. That just does not happen for the last month. But beginning on Saturday, And this is actually, again, on Sunday morning, but we have, you can see at least a temporary breakdown in this pattern. The ridge has shifted off to our west. It's up over Western Canada. The big trough out over the east, that's also been a block here, that's moved further to the east. And in the middle here, you can see another troughing feature, which is it's an important one because it's a method of lift in the atmosphere, which is needed to create precipitation. It also, at least on a temporary basis, it allows for some moisture at low levels to get back up into the upper Midwest where we really, really need it. And so beginning on Saturday, we will see the threat of showers and a few thunder showers beginning first in upper Michigan during the day on Saturday, and then spreading south and eastward from there on Sunday. And even more importantly, this is also a really good part of the story. This troughing feature here is not going to just move right through the region and then off to somewhere else. It looks like it's going to sit there. It's actually going to deepen and cut off over the area and stay for a couple days. Now, normally, if we wanted nice weather, that would not be a good thing. But in our case, it's very, very important because it means that we will very likely have a continued threat of rain after the main feature goes through on Sunday and early Monday. And so on Monday, Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday, we will have lingering chances for more rainfall, generally scattered showers. So we're looking collectively here at a several-day period where we could get precipitation. Two other thoughts on this as well. As we've looked at this, at least temporary change of pattern with the forecast, it's become more, there's been more and more rainfall with it as the event approaches here over the weekend. That's a positive, very, very positive thing. And secondly, the center of the circulation of this is further west with time. And that's important for us as well. It'll be over the Western Great Lakes and then move right over the top of us probably Sunday and Monday. And that all collectively is pointing to increased odds of precipitation. And on the right-hand side, upper right, this is actually forecast precipitation totals as of Sunday morning. You can see some here in, northern parts of the state. That will be moving to the south and east again on Sunday. And here on the bottom here, and we haven't seen this for some time, these are forecast precipitation totals for the 2-day time frame beginning on Sunday morning through Tuesday. And you can see actually some areas possibly picking up an inch. Now, the caveat with this, the other thing that we're noticing here with the forecast guidance, while it is more bullish in terms of precipitation, there's a lot of variability between the different guidance tools, some indicating heavy rain over an inch, some indicating much less, maybe less than a quarter of an inch. So that's one there could be some high variability here with totals, but it is the best chance I think clearly we've had in Michigan here, at least a month, probably several weeks, longer than that. So we'll cross fingers and hope that this thing comes together as the forecast guidance continues to suggest. And again, it's looking better here with time. So for the 1 week period through next Wednesday evening, you can see much of Michigan here with at least half an inch, in many areas better than that, but better than 3/4 of an inch. Now, if we get that, and hopefully we will, it will not certainly end the dryness. We have deficits of several inches already that have accumulated here, but it would sure make at least a temporary difference and help alleviate conditions of the very, very dry topsoils that we still have moisture at depth, but the topsoils are very, very dry for this time of the year. And then moving finally here to the medium range forecast guidance, I'm going to give you both the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day because they indicate another change occurring probably during the 3rd week of the month. For next week, for the 6 to 10 day outlook, the upper air here, you can see troughing over the east and over the west with the ridge over the middle. That's sort of where we've been over the last week, but collectively that suggests that next week we'll go back to the little bit warmer and drier than normal pattern that we've been locked into here for some time. That's for next week. And that's after the beginning of the week with a precipitation threat. It suggests that by the middle of next week through the next weekend, probably a little bit warmer and drier. The next chance of rain, by the way, after this weekend and early next week, probably not coming again until the following weekend. So it'll probably be several days before we have another chance for precipitation. Then looking at the 8 to 14 day, note the upper air. There are some similarities, but some concerning trends that we see here. We still see troughing out over the western U.S. That's consistent with the 6 to 10 day time frame. But note here across the Midwest and the East that we've got some eastward motion or eastward movement of troughing, but more importantly, we seem to see a ridge possibly in the beginning stages of development. And with western troughing, central and eastern ridging, that is a warm and dry scenario, unfortunately, for the Midwest. And for Michigan, we go part of that here with the 8 to 14 day, certainly above normal temperatures back. This is the third week. This forecast actually calls for near normal precipitation totals. If I would have made this forecast, I think with this kind of a pattern, especially what it appears to be doing, I probably would have edged towards the drier than normal, and I certainly don't want to do that. But that's what this I think this upper air pattern suggests at this point. Maybe that we are transitioning once again to warmer and drier than normal. That's something we'll be watching. It could change between now and then, but at least right now it does say that later in the month here that we might see that warm dry pattern reestablish itself. So that's something we'll be watching very, very closely. So summarizing here again, more of the same in the short term, warm, dry, hazy. And then the big news, of course, the likelihood and chance for precipitation here, especially in the latter half of the weekend and into early next week. And we'll hope that you're under one of the right clouds, but it does look like an extended period for some precip. I didn't mention this before, but certainly given the next couple of days, we are looking still at elevated rates of potential evapotranspiration. Not as bad, though, not as extreme as what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, but still above normal for this time of the year. So water demand, not surprisingly, still going to be high. And our medium range guidance, as you just saw here, looking like a little bit more of the same, warm and dry once again towards the latter part of next week, and then maybe beyond that as well. And with that, I'll wrap up here and turn it back to Phil. Thanks so much.